So now on to today's segment of winning strategies with the WBE. We have Andrea Ruiz-Hays with us today, and Nancy's going to be interviewing her, and we're going to be learning a lot more about why she is our winning strategy woman of the month. So, okay, we'll take it away, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you. So as I said, Wednesdays are my favorite days of the week. And this it happens to be one of my favorite topics too, is sharing information with you all from one of our members who has done some incredible things and who is uh, using her certification to grow her business, to pivot her business, to challenge her business, etc. So you all are in for a treat. Andrea Ruiz-Hays has done some incredible things. I'm going to start off by asking you, Andrea, to just tell us a little bit about your company and why you started it.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So thanks for having me today, by the way. Really appreciate this and this opportunity to speak with you all as well as everybody else that's joined. I know I can't see you, but hello, everyone. I live in Central Florida. I've been here now 23 years, but I came from St. Pete. So Florida, born and raised, love the Sunshine State. And I started my business about 2 years ago. So May 15th, it'll be 2 years. So we're almost there. And it was because I wanted to do something bigger. I knew that I had the capability and I had that gut feeling that I wanted to give back and have a bigger impact. And I'd like to take a step just a little bit further back, Nancy, if that's okay, so I can explain how I identified that journey. So my business is a sustainability consulting firm. I've always been someone that has found, fascination with Earth, our planet, doing right by all species here on our planet, as well as, the environment itself, ever since I was a little girl. I worked for Walt Disney World Resort for almost 20 years before starting my own business. And so, yes, I come from an extensive career experience working for one of the, planet's largest companies. And I enjoyed my time there. I had a myriad of different roles. Anybody that's ever known anybody work at Disney, as long as I have, we know that there's an evolution of job experiences. But one of the really amazing things that I got the opportunity to, now granted, it was because of my experience and my passion, but the last 5 years of my time with Walt Disney World, I was leading the company's sustainability efforts. And honestly, that is I'm going to say luck, but I put myself in that position, and I'll talk about that maybe through our conversation even here today. I say luck because it's not typical in a corporate role that maybe you are doing something that you're so deeply passionate about. But I did have that opportunity, and we were achieving incredible things, and they still continue today. But because I saw that profound impact that I was having not only on the employees that were there, but as well as, we'll say, the vendors, suppliers, but the millions of guests that were coming, that I knew that other companies needed those types of strategies, just as large as well as all the way down to small businesses and municipalities. So that's a little bit about me, why I took that step and leap. I know you've got some other questions for me here too.
No, really interesting. And for our listeners on Facebook, as you said, part of it was luck. The other part was probably you were doing the work to put yourself in that right position, right? So I love that quote. It's attributed to Oprah, but I think it's really by the philosopher Seneca, that says that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Right. So keep that in mind as you're listening to Andrea today. I think you're going to hear a lot about preparation and luck. So our second question for you, Andrea, is how have you used WBEC certification to your advantage?
If they've had a program, I've signed up. That's the short answer. But what I will say is I got certified about 6-7 months after I started my business. Almost, I guess you could almost really say it's pretty much right away. As soon as I had gotten all my house in order of things with running the business, I immediately applied for certification the moment I was applicable to do so. I knew that was going to help me. Because again, coming from a corporate experience, I understand the value of the certification, and that's who I primarily wanted to do business with. So I knew there was going to be benefits in that certification, but I also knew there was going to be training and classes. As I explained, I, yes, worked for a very large company, process efficiencies, but I had never owned a business. So there's things about being a business owner that I knew nothing about. Who knew though the pandemic was coming? So to answer your question of some of the things that I've taken advantage of, WBEC had an awesome program last year, and I think maybe they're going to do it again this year. Is We Thrive, which was I think it was like a 12-week program, and it did go on for a couple of months, where every other week we would come on, and they had a series of experts. Again, hey, this was free. You did have to apply and answer some questions to get in on this program, because they wanted to make sure you were serious about it. But even during the pandemic, they had this awesome program. And there were things that I learned that I'm not quite yet there with my business, but I took full advantage of the notes and the resources and the documents that the speakers gave, because someday my business will be large enough where I'll have to start working on some other HR document plans and some other things for a larger business. So that was really incredible. One of the other things that I took advantage of last fall, which was fun and stepping, I would say, kind of out my comfort zone. Anybody who knows me, and as you might even see here, I do have some energy. And I know no strangers, but last fall, WBEC and NGLCC put together a pitch contest during this We Thrive week, and that was just incredible. I auditioned, I put my 60-second video out online. I thought, all right, let's see for this opportunity for a business grant. It can't hurt, right? And hey, I went from the 100 down to the top 25. And even at that moment, I thought, wow, okay, people like it. And it was pretty incredible. I honestly went all the way through to being the finalist and one of the top 10 that went forward. And so that was just awesome. I've never officially pitched anything. Even here, I'm getting a little flushed in the face just remembering how nervous I was, but I went for it. It was an incredible experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let me unwrap a couple of the really important things that you said, so we can discuss them a little bit further. So We Thrive, which Andrea said she participated in, was an opportunity that was offered last year as WBEC saw that this pandemic had happened and we weren't having the Summit and Salute and the National Conference and Business Fair, which are two national events that WBEC does annually, where there is a heavy educational component. So there's a heavy marketing and networking component, but really WBEC, like us, we're all about educating and training, right? Because it's one thing to have women-owned businesses come in and get certified. It's a whole other thing for them to thrive as a result of the certification, right? So that's really our goal, is to go beyond you getting that beautiful certificate that you're going to hang on your wall. We want you to actually grow your business. So WBEC will probably be doing We Thrive again. And that leads me to remind everyone, that was a free event. WBEC also has scholarship programs. So if you are interested in some training outside of the WBEC network, within, I think it's 54 universities across the country that WBEC will allow you to bid for a scholarship, apply for a scholarship of, I think, up to $10,000 to attend executive level training at different universities. So you really want to take advantage of that, right? That's one of the things that WBEC offers. As Andrea said, you apply, you answer the questions, you submit information on why you want to attend, the Amos Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, or why you want to attend. I think even there's an opportunity in Flagstaff, Arizona. So you can go online and find all of the colleges and programs that WBEC says they would sponsor for you to attend, apply for that scholarship, and take off with that. The other thing is, I love that you just said, Andrea, that you stepped out of your comfort zone and went for a pitch competition. And yes, it is difficult to do, right? To break down your business and everything you do and everything you want people to say, and to, make that concise into a 1 minute pitch. The way the competition worked is it was open call. Anybody could submit the 1 minute pitch. Then there was an open vote, and whoever got the most votes went on to round two. And then from round two, how long did you have for round two?
Yeah, round two was a 2 minute.
Was
Yeah, and then round three, which was the finals, was 4 minutes.
4 minutes, right? So imagine that you go from just, in front of your phone, just sending a 1 minute pitch, getting people to vote for you, because that was part of the process as well, right? Because it was an open vote. And then you had 2 minutes, and then you had 4 minutes. So that final round is what was judged by the corporate sponsors and partners of WBEC.
Yes, and I would say those last two were live, and it was just like this, and so that was unique too, right? I think I had learned from myself. I've learned a lot even through this process, that I'm someone that receives energy. So even that I can see you all, I'm receiving some energy. And so I was realizing some things about myself and how I interact with others, even through this process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I bet you learned a lot about your own business too, right?
Yeah.
As you
what
were,
am I going to say in 4 minutes? Or when you go from 2 minutes, we're like, oh, that was good. Now it's like, oh, well, 2 more minutes. So how much more? Oh, well, that's too much. Like they start going through this whole cycle of, of what is it you're going to say, so you can get right to it.
right. And I bet you did some homework. So you probably knew a little bit about, since we know who the sponsors are, you kind of knew who was going to be in the audience as a final judge, right? So I bet you did a little homework on their corporations and corporate values and all of that. So all that comes into when you do a pitch, right? And then tell us about the actual pitch, and because there was some question answer period too, right, in that final round.
Yes. So, as I said, this was my first time. So I probably would have changed a few things. But yes, I got down to the nugget of, because it was a grant, it was a monetary grant, right? So they were going to give you money. And so I knew that I wanted to explain about my business, but sorry, I used my hands, I'll put them down. I knew that I wanted to tell them, though, what was I going to do with this? And so I wanted, and this is part of my business model. Yes, I talked about helping corporations, but that it shouldn't be just that large corporations get the help. Small business owners also need some assistance with being sustainably minded, environmentally conscious. And so in that, I did describe that I was going to pivot, that I was going to utilize that grant money to execute, to help small businesses become zero waste, restaurants, cafes, retail shops, things like that. But also, I know, and we were talking earlier, and I just love this, but I am going to make a little bit of a change on my website. A lot of people might be familiar with the word corporate social responsibility, but I've just started to talk it as a social responsibility, because we all have it. It's not just large Fortune 100s, 500s, or thousands. We all have a social responsibility. And, that can get into quite a few different segments. Earlier, we were talking about the DE&I as well, but social responsibility is also our impact on our planet. So I was trying to lead all that into the 4 minutes, which I think I did a pretty good job in doing that. Yes, I did do some preparation. I did do a lot of research and study. I went and watched a few other people's pitches as well. And because I was like, oh, I don't even know what does that look like, especially in a virtual world. How do you do that? So I was able to find a comfort zone. I did write I'll say, some bullet points, talking points. I wrote a very loose script, because I was just like I am here with you all. So I couldn't be reading something, so, but I needed to have my essence. And yes, I did practice up here in this room that I'm in now quite a bit. But when I say a loose script, I saw Nancy shaking her head. For anybody that hasn't ever done this before, I didn't want to memorize something, and I probably others would agree here. If you're ever having to do an official pitch, watch out and don't exactly memorize your script unless you're just that darn good. Otherwise, in the moment, maybe you use just a slightly different word, or you stumble, or you get nervous and you go, oh God, what was the next sentence? But if you know your talking points and you know what you want to convey, yes, in this case, I had to do it within 4 minutes. I felt comfortable within that. I mean, at some point I had to be comfortable enough just to be able to speak, because a lot of it, I believe, is how you can convey your message easy enough for people, even on a platform like this, to feel the impact that you're going to have. So that was just a little bit about what I did and how I prepared.
Right, right. And I think one of the things that came shining through, Andrea, was your passion, right? From the 1 minute to the final round. Anybody listening to you and looking at you could see that you really know this topic, but more than that, you're passionate about it, right? Which goes back to, why you start your business. A lot of people at some point, we need to kind of stop and evaluate, am I still in that space of passion? Am I still in that space of, I want to be doing what I'm doing because I believe in what I'm doing? Right. And so whenever you're pitching your product, if it's your business, if it's to a formal audience, like a pitch competition, or an informal, or an appointment like you have with a matchmaker, I think Andrea's point is really well taken. You don't have to memorize it, just be authentic. And remember, why did I start this? And Andrea had a history working with a corporation. She ended up, in the sustainability sector, and she saw that, yeah, it's all great to be part of a multi-billion-dollar organization, but this is a topic that's important enough for me to really focus in on some key markets. So I think that's really, really good advice, and I think that's very admirable on your part. So kudos to you.
Oh, well, thank you. My wife and I were just chatting last night about some other ideas, and she even has a new idea for me, which is awesome. But one of the things that I guess you were talking about, like, I have this passion too, and this is why it also helped me make that step out of the corporate world and into my own, is when we were going to dinner with other people or lunches, which is, diminished right now, but it used to be that the moment that someone found out what I did, oh Lord, there goes the conversation for the rest of the meal period. With some days I thought, oh God, here we go. But people want to know. I think that's why too, I felt solid, like, yes, this is a big leap, a risk for me. But if no matter where I go, people are asking me, what can I do, Andrea? Even if it's at an individual level, I thought, all right, there's got to be something more here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I'll do a little tangential words of wisdom. So sometimes women business owners start a business because they saw an opportunity, right? And it's something that they know they can do. And it may not be something that they're completely passionate about, but they saw an opportunity and they took the opportunity, which is a great thing to do, right? But, at some point, you kind of get bored of what you're doing if it isn't part of your core values, or it isn't part of your own passion. So at that point, I'd like to invite everyone to say, okay, what is it that I really want to do? And how can I make my 9 to 5 part of that? Right. And if anybody out there is struggling and trying to decide how they can do that, contact any one of us here on this call, and we will walk you through some exercises that will help you get back to what it is that makes you happy to wake up, and how you can implement that into your current business, even if it's doing something with a community-based organization that is doing that, which has nothing to do with your own business, right? There are ways to do that. But Andrea, you've given us some really great information and inspiration. And now I'm going to ask you, my third question is, what is the most courageous thing you did this year?
Well, so we'll take that as like the rolling year, right? Could I share something from even, last year, if that's okay?
Absolutely.
Um, I'll share a couple of things, I guess, is that, and for anybody that knows me, I'm kind of a somebody, if it's bothering me, I want to attack it. And if it's bothering other people, let's solve it, right? Um, Usually with the eye of the environment, but still, I am someone who is, if there's injustice somewhere, let's solve it. During the time last year when things started to shutter, right? And we're coming up now to a year of that time, which I know we're all thinking about here. My small business had just gotten started. And yes, I did come from a wealth of experience in the past, but as anybody probably knows, especially I had a consulting firm. So I wasn't selling items. I was a professional services. A lot of my businesses that I even had contracts with went on pause. Some of their other aspirations went on pause. In the time of the pandemic, I started a volunteer group here called Million Mask Challenge in Central Florida. And some of you might have heard of this because there were some other groups nationwide. I have to tell you, we started to just sew masks. And I say just, that's probably not the right word, but it was the giving back. I thought, well, my God, I can't just be stuck here in the house. What is happening here? We have to help, especially in a time when we knew that PPE was so diminished, non-existent. So I got over 1,000 volunteers in Central Florida. We had people donating materials. We created a system of people that didn't know how to sew, but that would cut supplies. Also working with Advent Health and Orlando Health.
Mhm.
There was a material called Halyard 600 that they were disposing of. It's what they wrap their instruments in prior to surgery, and it gets baked at like 400 degrees. Well, that gets thrown away. Guess what? UF had done a study, just as someone brought it to my attention, that it was just as effective as an N95 mask. So started working with the hospitals to give us that material after the one-time use, and we had volunteers making masks. We made over 16,000 masks that went back into hospitals here in Central Florida.
Wow.
So items like that. Later in the fall, another opportunity was I created a system to collect election yard signs. I think everybody knows they are like, oh my God, we understand we have to show support of who we're going to vote for, which it's a tool that gets used, but look at all the litter, and then it all just goes to the landfill because the recyclers don't want any of it. Well, I created a system here in Central Florida where we had 5 drop-off locations and ended up sending all the material to New Cycle, just as located over in Lakeland, and they create energy cubes out of that, and they supply it to CMEX, and so CMEX no longer burns fossil fuels over at that facility, and they burn this, and it's a smidgen of a carbon impact versus fossil fuel, which, as we know, one of the largest proponents to carbon emissions. So awesome. One other thing that I've started, I think a few of you know, I've been talking a lot about trash. Yes, I do talk trash often. Used to be my thing as I started these classes about recycling right. But one of the things that I started educating people on is about composting and how organic matter breaks down and the difference between recycling and composting. And one of my bigger aspirations, ideas, was to start a commercial composting facility. Well, that's a pretty big step, but I've taken the first baby step towards that and launching a local collection of organic material to break down for composting.
Wow. Wow. So you answered part of, so that was the courageous question. And then the other question was creative. So I think you answered a lot for, what you've done that's creative. Is there anything else that you've done that you would consider extremely creative this year?
Well, you know what I did earlier in the year, there were some things that were really bothering me. I mean, gosh, there's certainly enough that's we're surrounded with right now that could be bothering. I thought, what can I take control back of? What can I feel like I took control back of? And I don't know if anybody else can share this experience, but I took back control of my website and I redesigned my website with a phenomenal online resource. But for me, that even was a creative ability where I could take and say, this is what I want my online presence to look like.
Mhm.
And I had never done that before, but I think it looks pretty good, darn good. In fact, those that I've shared have said, yeah, they thought maybe a professional service had done it. So that was a creative way, and I've actually enjoyed it because this service that I use allows you to drop, drag, add photos, as long as you remember to hit the save button. I've made that mistake. But that's a creative way, as well as I would say launching the local composting program. It's a way to get out into the community, give back, but doing something really creative too.
Mhm. And I love that you brought that up because, I think if we took a poll and we asked, the people listening here and on Facebook, when was the last time they really gave their website a critical once over, it's probably been 3 to 5 years, right? And especially with last year and moving into this year, and a lot of people pivoted, a lot of people are doing things differently. I really recommend that you all take a really critical look at your website and see, does it still represent who you are as a business? Does it represent your vision, your core values? Does it represent you authentically? And there are a couple of easy fixes. And you can all start with the About Us section. If you feel like, taking on your whole website may be too daunting for you, look at that About Us section. Chances are it hasn't changed since you first did your website. And boy, have you changed in the last even year, right? We've all changed. So thank you for that tip, Andrea. That's really, really important to, your website is a living thing, and it definitely has to reflect the times. If we have one of our members, Terry Hall, does a lot of websites, and she says, colors change and people get used to seeing different colors. And if you're still using the colors from 5 years ago, your website looks old. Even though it's not that old, it looks old. So keep all of that in mind. So beautiful. I'm so glad you brought that up, Andrea. Okay, so our final question for you is, any words of advice that you have to WBEs?
Yes. I would say, and our discussion has been sharing this whole time, be creative, look for ways that, you can make change. I think earlier when you were sharing, we were talking, I had that gut feeling. I still have that gut feeling. I had talked to other business owners, some friends of mine who had been in an industry of professional services for quite a while. And they had started to kind of give me some ideas of other, we'll call them packages and things that I could do during this time where, my offerings really are different and unique than what I can do right now. But some of them I was like, that's just not me. Like maybe I could do that, but I feel like I come alive when the inside of me, I know everybody can't see, but when I feel it from inside of me, that I know that's the thing. And even if it's something that people go, you're going to do what? If you believe in it, try it. Maybe it won't work out exactly as you thought in those first few steps, but rarely anything ever does, right? That if we believe so much in it, and I know I've had people tell me this, some people follow me or have joined along in some of these things that I've done because they know now, oh, Andrea, she gets it done, or we believe that we know you're going to do it. So I also think integrity, being a woman of your word, of course, we've all heard this, but it is extremely important in making sure that you are doing service for yourself too, and not just your business. Yes, we need to make money. We have, money we have to have it to keep the business alive and to pay your, bills. And if you have employees, that as well. But if you have those big, hairy ideas, those things of, I'd love to do this, or where you recognize nobody else is doing this, why isn't somebody fixing this? Maybe that should be you. That's the way that I've started to approach it. There have been some more BHAGs that I've got. I'm going to try to take one BHAG at a time, and see how I go. But be bold, be courageous. But I also say these calls are awesome, and the ones that we have sometimes in the evenings and other networking that you can have, because women are an awesome support for each other. So if you don't have that and you're just friends network, this is an awesome network. And everybody that I've ever interacted with here has always been so supportive and give great feedback. Sometimes you need good, honest feedback. All ideas are nice, but which ones are going to work? And this group is great to vet that.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. We did have some nice comments in the chat box. Andrea, you're very inspirational. And we have Delinda on the call. She does e-trash. And she's actually starting up something in Orlando. So you guys should definitely connect, Delinda Rabinowitz. And then we had a question about your website. What service do you use for your website?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I could say it. That's it was Squarespace that I used.
Okay.
I compared Squarespace and Wix because I went from WordPress, which I just couldn't do.
I know.
Wix and Squarespace seemed fairly comparable, but I did a bunch of other people's reviews on them, and I just chose Squarespace, and I have been very happy with it so far.
Yeah, that's great. And I wanted to share too that it is clear that we can all see your why, right? And your passion behind that is amazing. And all your what's and how you're fulfilling the why is so clear, and just keep doing what you're doing. More people are going to find out, and before you know it, you'll be in charge of the whole entire United States and their trash. And so congratulations, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this time. This has been incredible. Great conversation. Thank you.
If I can jump in, Andrea. Yeah, our Facebook is going off today, guys. This is the most activity I think I've seen in a long time. And again, everybody's just going on and just thanking you for sharing your passion. Lots of comments going on. Andrea for president, we just had somebody say.
Oh, well, that's awesome. When you say something about the nation, there are impacts that we can all have here locally. And I'm going to say something we all know, right? Fix your backyard, fix right here in your neighborhood. I say here as in wherever you are. Absolutely. And that has to do with the environment and any other social issues or what you're involved in, because that's how we grow, right? And inspire one another. So, right. Take advantage of that. But thank you. That's awesome. And I can post my information if it hasn't been done below, if anybody wants to connect with me.
Absolutely. And I think one other thing is how you talked about your big vision of composting, but then you started small, right? So that also is a great key to success. Is you take this big thing that you want to do, and that can seem absolutely overwhelming because of the cost, the time, the location, all the overwhelming things. But then just take a step back and say, okay, what is one thing here that I can do that will get me to that big, hairy goal, right? And I think that speaks volumes to your creativity and to your commitment to your passion, right? So I'm going to share with you all that I listened to this great podcast by this woman named Patrice Washington. And her tagline is, we are passion chasers, not profit chasers. We chase passion, not profit. Mm-hmm. And everything she does is related to, what are you passionate about? Because if you're passionate about something, you're going to be able to take that passion, not only for that thing, but for many other things, because passion is that way, right? If you're enthusiastic, If you're motivated, you approach all aspects of your life with enthusiasm and with motivation. And I really commend you. I was so thrilled when I saw that you had signed up for the pitch competition, right? Because we'd put the word out, everybody, this is a great opportunity. And you signed up, and a couple of our other Florida WBEs signed up. And I was thrilled to see you went from round 1 to round 2 to the final round. And that is pretty amazing for a first time out, right? And for other people on the call and listening in, yeah, your business. Your business. Do a little bit of homework so that you can take advantage of all of these opportunities to tell your story, because that's basically what you did, right? Is you told your story, you geared it one way to answer the questions required, and knowing your audience, you were able to focus your story to what might be most appealing to them. So kudos to you.
Thank you. You did ask me that, and I feel like I didn't answer that. So maybe I should tell you, there were a few questions that were asked during that pitch afterward. I know you heard them, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, you have to believe in yourself and have that passion. And a few of the questions, I needed to have the decent boldness to answer it in the correct way, because I am also not just in it to have sales. We need to do it the right way. And so for whatever that is with your business, to figure that out, and to be able to know that no matter who you're talking to, you still need to keep with the core of what your company's mission is. So for instance, if I started going off in a direction that would seem conflicting with my business, people would start to wonder about me and my integrity. So have that decent boldness and be willing to, still in a respectful, courageous way, convey your message.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. So are there any more questions for Andrea?
I had a question. Andrea, I know you were on a TV show, a local news TV show. I think it was West 2, right?
Yeah.
NBC, local NBC affiliate. And I saw it at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I saw it again and again. It's like they kept showing it. It was pretty cool. But you were talking about what to recycle and what not to recycle. And they had you kind of out on the street.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about that experience, but also what are the couple things that people try to recycle that just aren't recyclable right now?
Sure. That was a fun segment. And yes, it was with West 2. We were in downtown Winter Park, right on Park Avenue. And one of the people who came by was Carrot Top. We didn't expect it. So anybody who
comedian
is from the area, he fairly played along with the rules. He was fun. And that was because there was so much confusion about what's recyclable and what's not. So here's some quick tips that I'm going to give you. And if you want to shoot me an email later, I can explain more of the whys. For plastics, disposable plastics like bottles and containers, you really want to do 1s, 2s, and 5s. Okay. It may say other numbers, but the plastics industry itself doesn't want back those other numbers. They're lesser value. So this place called a MRF, Material Recovery Facility, may say they'll take them, but they end up going to the trash. So if you were at the grocery store, yes, do it. Pop it up, look at the bottom of it. And if it doesn't have that number, just put it in the trash. Just put it in the trash. Unless you can find a fun, creative art thing. And maybe, Nancy, that's what I'll do for my contribution, is to show how you can make art out of these items that can't be recycled, but perhaps repurposed. A couple other things just want to share with you. Hard, rigid plastic versus that mesh soft plastic like a grocery bag. That's 2 separate programs. There's only like 1 or 2 places in the nation that allow you to put it together to be recycled. Otherwise, places like large grocery stores and large retail shops now have places for you to put that type of plastic there. Otherwise, if things have sauce, milk, juice, a lot of other, look at my face, stuff in them, give a quick rinse and then put it in. But otherwise, if it's full of stuff, you got to toss it out. Otherwise, you're making a mess down the way for somebody else.
Yeah. And also Andrea presented a lot of a lot more information at the Go for the Greens event. And so you could look, will you be presenting again this year or part of that?
Well, maybe. I
All
guess.
right, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, well, we are coming up to the top of the hour, ladies, and it has gone by so fast today. And I wanted to thank everyone for being here and Andrea for taking the time out of your day to be with us. Good.
Andrea,
Okay.
you have been an absolute treasure and a joy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing directly from some of our members asking you some questions. So thank you in advance for your graciousness in reaching back and helping them out. So thank you.
My
Yeah.
pleasure. Thank you again.
So, all right, ladies. Well, have a great afternoon, and we will see you next Wednesday on the window.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.